Weirding Way Media.
Welcome to this special bonus episode of the Filmumentaries Podcast. A bit of an out-of-the-blue bonus episode, this. Just a few days ago, I was contacted by Brandon Allinger, who runs Propstore in LA. And knowing that I'm London-based, because Brandon and I have had a few to and fro's over the years, bit of conversation over the years, he invited me as a member of the press to a special press preview of the upcoming auction at Propstore, which includes some incredible items, including a Last Crusade whip and belt, a original Jane Fonda Barbarella costume and gun, an original Jaws clapperboard with their teeth, and what's got to be one of the biggest items to go through their hands in all their years, an original Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi Darth Vader lightsaber, screen matched, photo matched. Well, the estimate on it, I think, is quite conservative. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes well beyond that. It's super iconic. And just one of those items that, you know, is a shorthand for the movie. Everybody knows what a lightsaber is, even if you're not a Star Wars fan. So this morning, 6th of August, I went up to the Dorchester Hotel, very posh, very nice hotel, and met up with the guys at Propstore, and had a preview of these special items. So what you're about to hear is a couple of interviews, one with Tim Laws, who's the director of Consignment at Propstore, and with Stephen Lane, the CEO and founder of Propstore. Thank you to Brandon for the invite. Didn't manage to get to have a chat on mic with Brandon, but we did have a good chat off mic. So I hope you enjoy my chat with Tim and Stephen, and I'll be back at the end for a very quick jabbering on. Clapperboards are very sort of workaday items. You know, it's not a prop. It's not something we see on screen. Of course, we've seen it behind the scenes, but this one is particularly iconic because of its design.
Yeah, and there's a very famous picture of Steven Spielberg on the Orca holding that early in production. And I don't think, obviously it's got the distinctive teeth pattern where the normal clapper would be on a traditional clapperboard, but this one proved to be pretty, I don't know if you've seen it in operation over there. It's not very efficient, and I think that very early on into filming they decided it wasn't going to work, and they went to a more traditional clapperboard for the majority of filming.
Yeah, Jaws is one of those films where it hasn't got a huge collecting fan base as such, because a lot of the items were items from reality. They weren't made specifically for the film, you know. Of course, we had the Orca, which came from the Warlock, and we have, you know, all the, like the gun was a real gun, and the harpoon gun was a real harpoon gun. Right. But there's just something about just having your hands on something that existed in one of the most tumultuous and difficult productions ever.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because the production was so notoriously difficult. To have something that actually represents the filming of Jaws is actually, you know, kind of significant. And I agree with you. I think there is very little authentic out there from Jaws because it was all off the shelf. The only thing I could think of that would rival the clapperboard would maybe one of the yellow barrels. That's the only thing I can think of that because that was the shark and this was production. So yeah, this clapperboard kind of, it's so displayable. It's amazing.
Did I hear as well that Bruce's eyes are part of the cut?
Yeah, that I thought that was really exciting, especially because you've got the whole Quint speech of the doll's eyes, dead eyes, you know, and to actually have the eyes, I think that's kind of a big deal. Yeah, love it.
It's great. I wonder who are the potential buyers for an item like this. Also, do you know what the reserve is on it?
The reserve on the estimate on the clapperboard is 40,000 to 80,000, and I think on the eyes it's 50,000 to 100,000. So, but that's actually a piece of the shark. I mean, that's as good as it gets, isn't it? It's amazing. Collectors for this, I think, could be anyone, because as you said earlier, there is so little authentic available from that movie, and it is the quintessential summer blockbuster. I think there could be a lot of interest because this is maybe the only chance to get something from Jaws. So, yeah, be interesting to see.
I also think Stephen hasn't got one from what I gather. So I know he's in a part of his career now where he's sort of very reflective.
Yeah.
In Laurent Bouzoury's new documentary, he gets quite emotional about that time and very open about it. So maybe he's a potential buyer.
Well, I hope so. But it's nice to see that somebody of his talent can be reflective on what he created, and even he appreciates the significance of it. I think that's a big deal. Yeah, I like it.
Stephen, you've had some iconic props go through your hands at Propstore. It feels like none as iconic as this. This seems to be one of those items that defines a movie. It defines the core of the movie. Tell me about this lightsaber that you've got.
Yeah, look, I mean, first of all, I think a lot of what's iconic is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? So, maybe if you're not such a Star Wars fan, maybe you're into Jaws or something like that, you might be more focused on something that's from a Jaws film. And
Such as the clapperboard?
Such as the clapperboard, maybe. Yeah, I mean, that might be the piece for you. But yeah, I mean, this is an incredibly exciting moment for us, bringing the Hero visual effects lightsaber out from the darkness, really. I mean, it's from the hands of the Dark Lord to Propstore. I mean, it's literally been nowhere in the middle of that. And the fact that there are only 2 Hero lightsabers made for production, one is already documented and is in a private collection, has been known about for a number of years, but this has been missing for 40 years. Nobody's known where it's been. Nobody knew it even existed. And so it's such a discovery. And I think, if you talk about some of the significant Star Wars props and costumes that have come to market over the years, of which there have been many. We sold a model miniature X-Wing a couple of years ago for $2.5 million. This is, that's eclipsed by a piece like this. I don't think there is a Star Wars fan in the world. I think there's a statistic out there that a third of the planet has watched Star Wars, has seen Star Wars in some capacity or the other. And here we have the lightsaber that is used for those pivotal dueling sequences, the good versus bad, Luke versus Vader. It's the whole essence of the movies. And this is screen matched to Jedi, it's photo matched to Empire Strikes Back. This is that saber, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, the lightsaber to me seems to be something that, even if you're not a Star Wars fan, if you're not one of the 1/3 of the people that have seen the movie, if you wave your hand around and make a certain noise.
Which noise would that be, Jamie? Come on, you can do it for us.
I'll insert that from the movie.
You have the ring. And I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Hang on, that's not the right clip. This is the right clip. But, I remember being a kid, and it was probably back then one of the most ripped off toys of the time. You could get a lightsaber spelt with an RE, with an ER, with a space, with a dash, from £5 to £50. Now we're talking, up to 500, 600, 1,000 even. This is in a league of its own, though, because it's screen matched and photo matched.
Yeah, I mean, this is the pinnacle, isn't it? It's the very top of the tree. It's the first time a verified original trilogy lightsaber has come to market. And I think that's just an amazing thing in itself. The fact that there is an opportunity, okay, it's a lofty number, so it's not accessible to everybody, but there is an opportunity for a private individual on the 4th of September to walk away with Darth Vader's Hero lightsaber. I mean, it's just nuts, isn't it? Who would have thought that would have been possible?
Even you didn't think that was possible.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's staggering. And that's what's so exciting about what Propstore does is discovering these artifacts that have been lost, buried, hidden, in some instances thought destroyed. If we talk about the Jane Fonda costume from Barbarella, for example, that we've got in the room as well, and the blaster, I was working with another client in Rome going back last year, and they happened to mention that they thought that they might know somebody with another costume house who could possibly have, or they certainly worked on Barbarella, but might have some stuff on the rails. It took us a while to get connected with them, language barriers, and also a lot of people don't really understand what it is that we do and why it is that we do it and why there's any interest, especially when you're working in the industry. Yeah. It's like a byproduct of the filmmaking process for them. But we ended up meeting at their warehouse, and lo and behold, there's half a rail of these different costumes from Barbarella, and they've been there since 1968, hanging on a rail. And that's what's so exciting about what we do. You never know what's going to turn up and what we can unearth.
Those production use items, those things we've seen on screen, like the lightsaber, like the costume you talked about, are one thing. But then you've got this Jaws clapperboard, which is an item that obviously isn't on screen. It's a part of the workaday nature of shooting that film. But there's something about that iconic design. There's something about that difficult production as well that adds that kind of extra value to it.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, it's sort of like it's not in front of camera piece except for when they're using it right in front of the camera. So it's not actually being filmed for general consumption, right? So luckily, it's well documented. There's a making of book where there's a lovely shot of Steven Spielberg holding one of those. The 50th anniversary documentary that just came out recently, again, it's featured in that as well. So it's recorded. It's known that there are about 4 of those that were made for production. And like the production, I think the clapperboards themselves were quite troublesome as well. I mean, it's not really practical. If you think what the purpose of a clapperboard is, it's obviously to mark the time, ensure that there's sync between audio and visual, and that doesn't really do that at all. So I think it's recognised that those 4 weren't heavily used. They did use standard slates as well, but it's so emotive, isn't it? Seeing that the teeth shape carved into it. I mean, whoever came up with that idea was genius, and they should all be like that. They should all be themed in the future.
I wonder if part of the reason that was designed was because of the amount of time they had not shooting the shark. I know that Richard Dreyfuss told me he went and learned knitting with some old ladies in a shop in Edgartown. So I wonder if that was the case.
Do you reckon there was just a prop guy who was like, you know what, I'm going to whittle out 4 of these things. It's going to take me 8 months, but I'm going to get it done. I don't know. Maybe you're right.
It's like those T-shirts, the design T-shirts got Joe Alves' shark design on the front that Kevin Pike put through, did screen printing up in the shack where they had the sharks, If filming was going on, he probably wouldn't have had the time to do that.
Yeah, very, very true. Now, it could be why those clapperboards exist. Have you ever had any whisper of who was instrumental in coming up with that idea, or?
I haven't. I'm going to have to ask a few people when I get home to see if I can dig that out.
Isn't it? Yeah. To really understand that. Is there an illustration of that board? Did somebody sketch it out? Is there a design for it? Because there is a little bit of engineering that's gone into that to allow it to slide up and down reasonably freely, not perfectly, but reasonably freely. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a great story. And wouldn't it be great to find some behind-the-scenes shots of them being constructed, for example? There's got to have been at least a couple of people who were involved in that and a discussion, and then to get it in front of camera. Spielberg's obviously going to have to approve it, and for him to stand there with it. So, yeah, there's got to maybe when you meet Mr. Spielberg, that's a good question for him, eh?
Yeah, there's always another question to ask. Just remind us when the auction is and how people can get involved.
The auction takes place from the 4th to the 6th of September. It's taking place in Los Angeles. Day 1 is at the Peterson Museum in LA, so you can attend in person. But the whole event is streamed online as well. So if you just go to propstore.com, the full catalogue opens on the 8th of August, so it's just a day away now. And registration's open right now as well. And it will be streamed live, obviously, so everything will be fully accessible wherever you are in the world.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my chat there with Tim and Stephen. Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise to be invited to that. It was great to meet up with some of my fellow nerds, including Mark Newbold, who's a fellow writer at ILM and Skywalk Sound. We're actually working together on an article at the moment. Also bumped into Matt Hudson of Star Wars Sessions and James Burns as well, journalist, writer. Jedi News, Sky, you'll know James if you're a Star Wars fan. It was great to meet up with those guys. Coming up next on the podcast is my interview with puppeteer Dave Barclay, who has a biography out at the moment. Dave is an old friend, and I've made a short documentary about him. He's also been on the podcast as part of the Jabba crew. But Dave is so much more than Jabba, as you'll hear in the upcoming interview. Thanks for joining me for this special bonus last-minute episode of the podcast, and I hope you can join me for the next one.